Yo, what's good? Welcome to the Mixing Secrets free EQ and compression mini course. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to EQ and compress melodies, and this is just a small taste of what's going to be in the Mixing Secrets bundle. There's over 9 hours of material in there from start to finish. We got beat mixing, full song mixing and mastering, vocal production. My course, Vocal Hacking, is included in that. A whole bunch of stuff. It's going to be live on Black Friday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let's just hop right into this. This is going to be all about EQ and compressing melodies. So you can see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 melodies and a bass. Well, technically this is a sub synth bass and this is a sub bass, but I'll include that in here because, you know, those things have to work together. So I took all of my EQing off because this was done previously, but I wanted to show you guys how I EQ and compress melodies. I'll just play it back real quick. They sound good, but there's some clashing in the mid and mid-high frequencies. There's a lot of highs going on here. So to clean those up, what I'll do is I'll throw an EQ on each melody track. And if we hold save preset as, click and drag it, we can get everything over. It'll take a lot less time here. Throw it on there. And then another thing that I like to do, just move this mixer out of the way. I like to get all of these on the same page here. We got the Scorch is like our main melody. Our Silent is our like sub bass. We can take this. East West is those horns and strings. Let's solo out one by one first. This Scorch melody is my main-ish melody here. Some keys. But you can see it's super hot in the low end, and we want to save that space for the bass. We also, again, we have two basses here. We have a synth bass and a sub bass. So we don't want anything to clash in this area, right? So I'm going to pull down here, pull this 2-band just to make sure that we turn those frequencies down significantly. A little bit thinner here, not too thin. About right there is good. This is the hot zone in this melody here. We love this. This is the main meat and potatoes of that melody, right? I like this. All right, that sounds good. Let's turn on our second melody, the trumpets. So we're getting some clashing here. You can see this is a really hot zone for this main melody here, and our trumpet is our secondary melody. So that's going to be a personal preference thing on your end. You're going to have to choose what you think is your main, secondary, third, and fourth melodies if you have that many. Because everything needs its own space and everything has its own importance and, again, space in that EQ spectrum overall. So right now we're going to play the Scorch, which is some keys and our trumpet. So I like the stuff that's going on in this trumpet, and it seems to be at a good level, but some frequencies are clashing in the 1 to 2K range. Again, and just be sure if this is going to be a beat for an artist to get on, that 1 to 2K, 3K range is going to be a real hot zone for vocals too. So keep that in mind when you're mixing and blending your melodies and also adding melodies. You don't want it to be too hot in that area because it'll clash with vocals. So I think I'm going to pull down in the 1 to 2K range, slightly though. And again, any unwanted frequencies in that low range we can take out. And notice that I'm doing all subtractive EQing. I'm not really doing any additive because I chose sounds that are, again, are in the low mid frequencies, and mid high and high frequencies. That's super important. You're going to do a lot less mixing and a lot less EQing in the long run, and you'll get into that if you hop into the Mixing Secrets when it drops on Friday. So you'll see that I go super in depth with all that stuff. So just stick to some EQing and compression here. We'll get into compression in a little bit. Get a nice blend on those, maybe level out a little bit. And if you wanted to pull down on the very high end here, because the trumpets are nice and high and bright, we could sacrifice a little bit of high end on our main piano melody. Just slightly though. It just makes a little bit more space for those trumpets. It sounds awesome. Cool. Let's hop into our second east-west. This is strings. Some cellos. Again, we'll take some lows. And I think I'm going to take out some low mids here, around 200. Not take out, but lower. Because I like that range in our main squelch melody here. But I don't want it to be too loud to clash with the kick and bass later. And again, in the 1 to 2K range, duck very slightly here to just make room again for our squelch melody and some of that trumpet melody as well. The cool thing is, and you'll understand this the more you do EQing too, sometimes it sounds like things are just louder and you need to level them, but just try EQing first. Sometimes all you need is a little bit of EQ. That string and that cello sounded a lot louder than it did just a minute ago before I ducked out some frequencies. Yeah, that sounds great to me. We can lower this a little bit if you need to. Cool. Now the silent is a synth bass, and all I want out of this is mid low, right? So we can do this. We can go to this preset 20 hertz, do a cut here, and just cut some low frequencies because our 3x oscillator sub bass is going to take up that. And again, I explained this in heavy detail in the Mixing Secrets course, the full course that's dropping Friday. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll explain how to mix and blend multiple layers of bass. The whole beat, basically, a whole beat from start to finish. It's an hour-long video. And then there's another hour-long video with vocal stems and a full stem mix. And then there's another 6-hour vocal hacking course in there. So it's really packed with information. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I just want to cut those sub frequencies and those high mid frequencies as well. That sounds great. Sounds awesome. Let's pull in this sub bass. Throw an EQ on that. Probably not going to touch much on this, but we could take out highs actually. And we're just going to leave those sub frequencies because that's where we're lacking. Now we have every bit of the spectrum, really. We have mid lows, mid highs, highs with the trumpet. We have some more mid and mid highs with the cello. And then we have our lows and mid lows with the synth bass. And then we have our sub lows with the 3x oscillator. So we have every bit of the spectrum in here, and it sounds super full. A quick level. All right, that sounds great to me, and I want to show you some compression and understanding some bus compression here as well. So I'm gonna make a melody bus, or you can call it like an instrument bus or whatever you'd like. There's no rules there. Color it, and I like to dock it to the left, and then hold control, click and drag all of our melodies, highlight all of them, go over to that melody bus, right click here, route to this track only, turn it on. And to glue these melodies together, what I'm going to use is some compression. And again, like this is just a quick mini course, but again, in depth, I go super in depth in the Mixing Secrets full on course. So I want to glue these melodies together, right? because they could sound a little bit too dynamic and too all over the place with some of the levels. Even though I leveled them out, they sound really good together, but compression will kind of glue those instruments together and make them sound a little bit more cohesive. So I'm going to keep it with all stock plugins here. I'm going to throw the Fruity limiter and use it as a compressor. So I'm going to turn it on the compressor setting. And then to quickly understand compression, what compression does is it takes anything that's high in volume and it brings it down, and it takes anything that's low in volume and it brings it up, and it squashes it slightly. So to quickly understand a compressor, the threshold is like how much compression you're going to put on it. The ratio is how strong that compression is. The attack is how fast that compressor starts to work, and the release is how slow or fast it stops working, if that makes sense, right? Again, I go super in detail in the Mixing Secrets course about compression. So let's add some compression on this bus, and let's see it start to work. Another reason I like to use the Fruity compressor, the Fruity limiter rather, is that you can see what's going on here. I like to get a nice visual for what's going on as well. Let's get some slower attack so we don't lose those transients in the melodies. That sounds really good to me. So I just added some threshold here, about negative 23 dB, but it brings this blue line down to where you start seeing some peaks in the audio. And the ratio is set to a 5 by 5 ratio, which is kind of a strong ratio, but for the melodies it sounds really good. And it kind of just helps glues, again, it glues those melodies together just a little bit. We're not going overly compressed here, just slightly. So make sure that you pay attention to these peaks. And then another reason why I like it, because when I first started compressing, I wanted to get a better understanding for like what everything was doing, right? Like, what is it doing? I wanted to physically see what it was doing. So I can like full screen it here for you too. You get a better visual. So let's hit play. So we can physically see what's going on here. This is where our normal audio was. Then we're bringing it down here and we start compressing. The purple is where it was originally, and the white is where it is now after compressing. So you can see that we've done a decent amount of compression on that melody bus, and it just takes any of the super loud peaks and it brings them down. Anything that hits above a certain decibel, it brings it down and it squashes it. And it takes anything that's super low again and brings it up in volume. And it just makes it sound a little bit more cohesive and a little bit more of like a full band vibe. Like you're just getting an overall cleaner sound, especially when you start adding a lot more drums and vocals and whatnot. It's gonna add to the quality and the dynamic in the long run. Now, sometimes when you compress and you bus everything together, you might get some frequencies that sneak through. So what I like to do is add another EQ on that melody bus and just take a look and a listen to what's going on. And if anything kind of sneaks through in that low range, I kind of want to like add a little bit of a cut in the sub frequencies. So I'll go here to the 20 hertz 18K again, and then just give it a listen. And again, I'm not going to be cutting here. I just want to go up to about 50, maybe 60 hertz, and anything below that will get cut completely. So anything that sneaks through in that sub range will get cut, because I like all of the other elements that are in here. I like that. Another thing that you could do to this melody bus is add one more EQ. And the goal here, you might ask, like, why am I adding two different EQs and I can do it all in the same one? You don't want plugins to be doing too much work all in one. If you're doing additive EQing or subtractive EQing and you're doing maybe some sweeping techniques, which I'm going to show you right now, it might be a good idea to use multiple EQ plugins. I've learned along the way that like overloading plugins with too much work can hurt your sound in the long run, especially on vocal chains, melody bus, effects chains, and whatnot. So with this second EQ on the melody bus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 6-band to kind of sweep through and listen to any bad frequencies that might be sticking out. So if I hear anything squealing, I'm just going to sweep through. And what I'm really listening for is constant squeal. If I hear a constant squeal as I'm sweeping through, I'm going to cut that frequency. That's a constant squeal right there. So now I'm going to go over to this level because this is super sensitive, and if I try to bring this down, I will lose that exact frequency. I think it's 2183 hertz. I'll lose that specific frequency if I try to move it by hand. If I move it by this level here, it sticks right on that frequency. I'm not going to go all the way down. I'll go probably about halfway down with it. Again, I'll take the 5-band and do the same thing from here down. Yep, constant squeal at 1105. That sounds clean. So I'll leave it at that. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the free Mixing Secrets EQ and Compression mini course. Stay tuned again for this Friday, Black Friday. I'm going to be dropping the full Mixing Secrets bundle. It's going to have over 9 hours of mixing and vocal recording material from start to finish. I'm mixing beats, I'm mixing full songs start to finish, I'm recording an artist in the studio. Tons of free bonuses when you download that pack. So make sure to stay tuned and share this with a friend if you get me.